What's going on, guys? It's Adam P, and welcome back to more Newcastle United transfer news. Tomorrow needs no introduction. The return to St James's Park as we take on Liverpool, our first encounter since the cup final earlier this year, and a match that already has a lot of heat going into it, and a match that we know deep down, in my opinion, it's a real huge game for Newcastle, not just in the context of the game, but I actually feel like to set the precedent and to set the image for our season, we have to look good against Liverpool. If we get trounced at St James's Park and if we look weak at St James's Park, almost sets the picture for how our season's going to go. And before we play Leeds in our next game, we have the Champions League draw, so we've got that to factor in. Of course, the remaining week in the transfer window, we need to at least bring one striker in. So when you look at this game tomorrow, it's a real opportunity for Newcastle. It has the recipe for the match of the season. And when you look at all the opposition and neutral fans that are going to be watching it in this game, it's probably going to be a most viewed game as well this season. So we have to look good. We have to stay strong. And we have to stand toe-to-toe with the best that this country has to offer. But make sure, if you're new around here, get down there, hit that subscribe button, join the journey, and join the 43% of you who are already subscribed watching these videos so you don't miss out on any upcoming transfer news. And just a heads up ahead of the game tomorrow, for any of you who are going to be there nice and early, Newcastle and Liverpool fans, of course, make sure to contact me on any of my social media pages, because we're going to get a lot of content done before and after the game. And the obvious point being, Alexander Isak. We'll get through this guy first. I know you are always sick of hearing about him, but we are now coming towards that resolution. And once we talk about him, we can move on and mention our topics. Great Cup has stated before on Sky Sports News that he has been told from his sources that Isak is going nowhere. Isak will stay at Newcastle United. So much I feel like it's obvious news without any strikers coming in. What was always said, two strikers come in would allow an Isak sale. That's not going to happen. So regardless of what is going on and his point of view, and we've got a lot of questions to be asking ourselves after the window is closed. But Isak, this is it. You're staying whether you like it or not. So you're going to have to put your act together now. Yeah, apologise to Eddie Howe, apologise to the players, and apologise to those fans, because this has been a disgraceful window for one of our players. He cannot behave like this, regardless of what's happening for him at Newcastle, regardless of these broken promises. I'm sick of hearing Liverpool fans continuing to defend this guy, regardless of what's been said behind the scenes, and regardless if Isak is correct with the broken promises. He cannot behave like this. You are contracted to Newcastle, which means by law you have to train and you have to play with his teammates, which he's not doing. You don't defend that behaviour at all, and this is a player. Once we get this transfer window closed, we'll then have the questions of what's going to happen next. But for now, get this week over and done with. Get these players in, keep them away from the next two matches, and then we'll have this problem to deal with next week onwards. And as for incoming signings and what players Newcastle could bring in this week, Mark Douglas posted an article before going through Ivan Toney. I mean, that was a name I was not expecting to hear at all during this transfer window, of course. He used to play for Brentford, was with Newcastle back in around 2015. At the time, came in youth players, a player Benitez wasn't keen on, went on loan a couple of times before we let him go to Peterborough, and it's a player now that is, of course, in the Saudi League, earning mental money. And that's why I've even never fully looked into Toney, because of just the money that he's on over in the Saudi League. It just never seemed like a feasible player to come back to Newcastle. And that's essentially what Mark Douglas says in his article. He goes through the fact that Toney's on massive wage as a player that probably would be open to join Newcastle, but a player deep down would quite heavily disrupt the PAF's wage structure inside Newcastle. When you talk about the guy behind the scenes whinging, and when you look at his wage, it's 120 grand a week. So Toney, you can imagine him coming in way more money than our player behind the scenes. Imagine how he's going to be feeling. You can tell that animosity there is going to be building even more if you were to sign a player like Ivan Toney. And for me, he's not a player that I'm that keen on anyway, because I remember when he was at Brentford, he had quite a few times where he was just publicly quite vocally negative towards Brentford, which is quite weird. When you were contracted to Brentford, he's going, well, I don't want to be here. Brentford's crap. Like, he basically just slags his own club off when he's playing for Brentford, which is someone that's always kind of had a bit of an ick towards me. So when I look at players coming in, Toney's just one that never seems to mesh, in my opinion. Obviously, Yoane Wissa remains the most obvious signing for Newcastle to me. Same situation as Isak, but I feel like Wissa has more leverage, and Wissa seems to be the signing out of the two, which is more likely to happen in this window. Again, with that contract situation, 12 months left with a year extension, a player there that does seem to be somewhat one foot out of the door and a player who continues to be away from Brentford's team. While not as bad as on strike, he's still training with his team, he's still interacting with the manager. But a player that's not committed to Brentford, let's be honest, he's not committed to playing there. Clearly wants out, and despite everything that's been going on, the rejected bids, and despite the strong stance from Brentford, I still think Newcastle's taking another punt this week. Might be later on, could be even a deadline day punt, but I think Newcastle at some point will go in there yet again with another bid, and that'll be one player we'll attempt to sign this week. And when you look at the other striker, I just don't see it could be. I've seen names go about for Soloff. I've seen people talk about Soloff on YouTube, and I've seen, I guess, the footballing world talk about Soloff, but again, just doesn't seem to be one that is realistic for Newcastle. Nicholas Jackson still got strong demand. It looks like now Aston Villa is going to potentially pull out of that race. So you're talking Newcastle or Bayern Munich. And again, Bayern Munich's a big jump over Newcastle. And this is the problem now. We've waited long enough. We've attempted to bring players, and we just haven't been able to get that striker all summer long. It's not like Newcastle hasn't tried. They tried for Delat, tried for Pedro, while not putting official bids in. What the likes of Bruno, what Acuna, bid for Katiki, bid for Sesko, bid for Wissa. We've clearly tried to buy attacking players. It's not like Newcastle has neglected this all window long. It's just been, one is, bit of bad luck, bit of perhaps not the best planning on our behalf, and of course the striker behind the scene, which has made the transfers even harder. I would argue, especially for a player on strike. Teams know how desperate Newcastle are now, and I think that has been a big factor. And ironically, the player who wants out has done actions which has made it more likely that he stays. He's actually run out of his way, and it's kept him at the club. It's truly astonishing, but that's exactly what's happened in my opinion, because you look at the attacking options now, and I sit here and we'll bang on about it in all my videos, but who does Newcastle actually bring in? Take Wissa out of it. Who realistically can Newcastle sign now for good money? I mean, like a good price to bring in. If you splash too much money out now, you're bringing a player in we essentially don't want, because we would have signed that individual by now if Newcastle was serious about bringing these very expensive players in. So take that out of it. Newcastle, I think our best interest, yeah, kind of sign two Wissa-esque players, so two players that don't cost. I say don't cost a ridiculous amount. Wissa's still got a £60 million demand from Brentford. That's the problem we've got. A guy that's 29 years old with 12 months left and a year extension. £60 million, that's the problem. Newcastle, no matter who we get in the market now, everyone is so expensive. So I can only see one striker coming in and then Isak staying. There's no other way about it. It will be one striker in, and that's an if, because it's still potentially possible Newcastle might get 0 strikers in, and then we've got to convince the guy behind his scenes to come back and play for us until at least January. So that's the real problem we've got. I said it all window long. I think Wissa over the past few weeks has been the biggest player Newcastle could have got in. I think Wissa was the guy that's going to help the stability and be able to have us solve the issue behind the scenes. It's just dragged on. Brentford's been resistant. Brentford said no, and then they said 60 million. So it's been a case for Newcastle where we tried our best. We've huffed and we've puffed, but deep down, a team that's just as desperate as us to keep a hold of their players is doing the exact same thing. So you kind of got to reflect on it now and just say, well, fair enough. We've got to try our best to get someone in. But that's a real worry for me this week. I think if you don't get a striker in, you've got a real problem this season. You've got to make sure at least one's through the door. But no matter what, Liverpool fans, you can sit here, you can talk out your backside all you want about putting this 140, 150 million bid down. Isak is not going this summer. Has to be 2 strikers in. That's always been the message, and it's not going to happen. So you can sit there, you can make all the claims that he won. We aren't giving him up. It's not going to happen. He'll stay here whether he likes it or not. And then Newcastle, after this window is closed, will have to start the rebuilding process and getting this guy back on board and getting a hell of a lot of apologies out of him. And that's sorting out the agent, sorting out the player itself. So it's a real nightmare situation for us. We'll get through it. Hell, we've been through worse. We'll continue to go through worse, I'm sure, in the future. But Newcastle's ownership now, real intent, real demand, no. No, you are not going anywhere is the message. There's a real sign of intent and authority from our ownership. Send a message to the footballing world. If you behave like this at Newcastle, you will not be able to get away with it. I know fans in this video are still going to go at him, sell him to the best interest of the club. Isak needs to be punished. He needs to be punished for his behaviour. He does not and should not be allowed to go to that move to Liverpool because of the way he's behaving. It's that simple. He has to be punished now. He has to accept his punishment. He has to show the club respect, and then on our terms he can leave. And I think that's the best message to give out. We'll get through all that before the game, after the game, and all. But for those 90 minutes on the pitch, It's all about the team now. It's all about Eddie Howe. It's all about those players. It's all about the ownership in the moment. We'll deal with everything else and all the background noise we'll deal with outside of the match. But tomorrow is Newcastle's chance to be able to show Liverpool up under the lights at St James's Park and what is going to be a real hostile and very good atmosphere for us. The fans will be up for it. They're going to be going for it, and the players have to do the same. So let's see how tomorrow goes. Sorry for not the biggest update in this video. It's just how it is, unfortunately. I'm here to deliver the Newcastle United news. I'm here to get through everything. I'm here to tell you guys what's going on. It is that massive question of who. I can't make it any clearer. It is literally that question of who we bring in. It's going to be tight. It'll be a bit nervous, but one player in, I'm happy. Get one striker in. That's what we need to get sorted. We can do that. I think Newcastle, we're keeping Isak. I think have done well in this situation, but of course, I had a lot of things going against us this summer. Well, thank you guys for watching anyway. Take care. Let me know your opinions down below. Which player would you bring in? Because I'm still perplexed. I haven't got a clue outside of Wissa who Newcastle will actually sign this summer. So please do let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you all in the next one.